What's up and welcome back to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Tuesday, January 16, 2024. Of course, I am Tim Geddes and I'm joined by fresh new cut, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good morning, Tim Geddes.
How do you feel? You feeling cold?
I'm actually feeling, I'm less cold than I was on Friday.
It's been
Friday,
really cold here, yeah.
Yeah, Friday was like ridiculously cold to the point where like right before Game Showdown, I'm sitting there shivering. Yeah. And I'm like, it is so cold that I am distracted. Like,
And no one got you a blankie?
Nobody got me a blankie. Greg Miller put on like mittens.
That's fucked up, Les. It's a cruel world.
I know, man.
Did you know those mittens are Monster Hunter Now mittens?
I
that
do.
They were giving him so he could play fucking Monster Hunter Now outside, and I'm only kind of jealous.
Do they not have Pokemon Go mittens?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
They probably
You can't
do.
see me in these streets doing that, though. You know what I mean?
Wearing Pokemon, 1,000% I can see you in these streets wearing Pokemon Go mittens.
But see, here's the problem. I like fingerless gloves, remember? Because fingerless gloves are the best gloves. And people don't want to admit it, but I'm the first line of defense on this one. There's nothing cooler than fingerless gloves. It's a fact.
Here's the first thing. One, they probably make fingerless Pokemon gloves.
Yeah.
They make Pokemon everything. I'm sure you can find some fingerless Pokemon gloves. Secondly, can you just cut the fingers off? Can you just get regular gloves and cut the fingers off?
That's not cool.
No?
That's not cool.
Is that like what? Is that the equivalent of cutting your jeans and turning them into jorts as opposed to just buying them?
It
like
really is, I
buying
think,
ripped
actually.
jeans as opposed to just ripping the jeans?
Buying ripped jeans, though.
You don't mess with ripped jeans bought that way? Like, they have to be...
I mean, I guess, like, all things considered, I just don't mess with ripped jeans.
No?
That's a personal thing, though. Like, I
guess I'm not seeing you rock
it. I respect
jeans.
people. I'm too white for that. Like literally,
your knee just popping out.
The color of my skin specifically, I'm too pink is probably the better way to put it. Like,
okay. I get it.
I ain't trying to, like, do that.
That makes
people.
sense.
You know what I mean?
That. How's your Prince of Persia Platinum coming along?
Oh my God, it's going real well. Bless. I love this game. I fucking love this game. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. Can't stop playing it. Can't stop talking about it. It's kind of a dream come true, man. Like, it reminds me a lot of when Into the Spider-Verse came out, when the first trailer dropped for that. And I was like, this literally feels like a dream come true to me. Yeah. Like, Spider-Man is wearing Jordans. Who the fuck would have thought of that? This is insane. Somebody is in my mind. And, oh, hey, it's a Prince of Persia that's stylish as hell. Metroidvania.
And it's great.
It's anime as fuck.
Yeah. and
it's amazing. How are we getting that in 2024? But we are kicking off the year. It's so good. I hope you get to it, Bless. Because
you and Janet inspired me to go back to Greg Miller and be like, hey, actually, can I get a Switch code?
Good.
Because as a cautionary tale for myself, right? Like back when Sea of Stars came out, I started playing it on PlayStation 5, and I realized that was the kind of game that I would have preferred to have handheld. And I think because I had it just like, I had to be at my desk for it, that turned me off of going back to it as regularly as I should have for that kind of game. I realized with Prince of Persia, I'm like, I think I need this handheld if I'm going to really commit myself to playing through this thing. And so I have it for Switch. I have it downloaded. I am reviewing.
Runs great on Switch, dude.
I'm reviewing multiple redacteds, and so it's gonna be tough to try and make time for it. However, next week I am flying to New York, the city of angels.
Well,
that's not the one. The Windy City, New York. That's all.
Why you go to New York?
I'm gonna attend the New York Game Awards.
Ooh.
Just on like oh man, okay, I'm not nominated for a thing. Why not make it out to the thing that I'm nominated for and have fun? Also, I've not been to New York before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is gonna be my first time going to New York.
That's so cool.
I'm only there for a day, so I don't have enough time to do like all the things I'd like to do. But
go to Nintendo World. I feel like you'd enjoy it.
To the Nintendo shop or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. I don't know. I'm gonna get a slice of pizza. See if it's everything they chalk it up to be. And then from there, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe I'll find the Statue of Liberty, give her a high five.
Fuck yeah.
Go to the Central Park. See if it's bigger or smaller than Golden Gate Park.
Yeah.
Apparently, Golden Gate Park is bigger.
It is.
I learned that during trivia.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is pretty damn crazy.
Aside from Nintendo, what is the one thing you think I should do in New York?
I mean, that's the thing.
I have one day.
You have one day. Real talk, I do think it's the touristy shit. I do think just go to Times Square. You can walk from Times Square to the Nintendo World. And just knowing you and a day of what you're going to do, I think that's the move. If you were hanging out with a group of people, it'd be a different answer.
Yeah. That's the thing is when I go to LA, I have so many people in LA that I know that I can hit up and be like, yo, come through, let's hang out. I don't know if I know anybody in New York.
Yeah.
And so it might just be me myself, and
Roger's here. We took him.
Damn. And the messed up thing is I think Roger's headed to New York the day after. And so I like narrowly missed him by a day. Can I tell you though that I've been thinking about this New York trip, and I understand that this is coming from a place of ignorance, right? Like shout out to New York, one of the greatest,
here we go.
one of the greatest cities in the world. But media has fucked up my perception of New York so much.
I mean, let me tell you, there is actually smoke coming from the sewers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because for some reason I'm like, oh man, New York's kind of scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Rats
like, and
everywhere.
I think I'm just thinking of like, Spider-Man. Like, yeah, fucking Shocker out there. I'm thinking of all the movies that take place in New York that depict it as this crime-ridden, crazy place where people only speak in slang. And where
parts of that are true.
Tim's.
Parts, I think, from the fear perspective, you don't worry about it. You're gonna be great. You're gonna be great. But from
like,
all that
I'm
other
so
stuff,
scared that Uber driver's gonna be so rude to me.
There's not Uber drivers. There
What do you
are,
mean?
but like the one thing that is gonna blow your mind if you've never been to New York is every movie you've ever seen there, where you just look at the street and it's just a sea of yellow because it's all yellow taxis, and you're like, why is there 100 taxis? That's not realistic. It is. I promise you, it is.
I got to learn how to hail a taxi.
The first thing I want you to do when you get to New York, once you realize it, text me.
Yeah.
I want you to text me and be like, you were fucking right. Because I'm fucking right,
all these
Bless.
taxis.
There are so many yellow taxis in New York. There's not that many people. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, cool. Well, that's actually the first thing I need to learn. You go online and be like, how do I hail a taxi?
Yeah, they do have Uber. They do have Uber.
Gotcha.
They just also have an excessive amount of taxis. But enough about that. We'll
That's all
talk
in
about you
taxis.
hopefully winning an award next week. But until then, of course, this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Today's stories include no shadow drops at the Developer Direct, The Last of Us 2 Remastered reviews are in, and more. This is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy news that you need to know about, live on YouTube, Twitch, and podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, please support us with the Kinda Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free. Watch us record them live and get a daily exclusive show. For a chance to be part of the show, you can submit your thoughts and opinions at YouTube Super Chats as we go. We'll get to them if they're about the stories as we're doing the stories, or we'll get to unrelated ones towards the end of the show. So get your Super Chats in throughout the entire time we're hanging out today. Little housekeeping for you. Our Last of Us Part 2 review is up right now as a PS I Love You XOXO, featuring Lightweight Games and Sancho West. Led by Greg Miller. You should definitely check that out. Echo in review is up right now, continuing the MCU in review, the 46th entry.
Whoa.
The 40 fucking
MCU in review?
MCU entry. Yeah.
Oh man, what a
Yeah.
journey!
What a journey.
I started up watching Echo the other day. Watched the first episode and was like, how far down we've come. Where I just don't care anymore.
Bunch of haters
about
out
the
there.
MCU.
So many haters.
Are you up on the MCU?
Look, good is still good. This shit ain't bad.
Yeah, but okay is okay.
This ain't okay.
It's fine. It's whatever.
better
I'm
than
like,
okay.
what happened to Thanos? Bring him back. I'm tired of all these. Cool.
God. Thank you to our
Fighting
Patreon
Daredevil for no
producer,
reason.
Delaney Twining. And today we're brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
A baker's dozen.
Story number 1. There won't be any shadow drops during the Xbox Developer _Direct. This comes from Mike Straw at Insider Gaming. When Xbox announced its next Xbox Developer Direct for January 18th, gamers started wondering if there would be a shadow drop announced at some point during the show. Xbox seemingly heard those rumors and decided to squash them ahead of the show's airing. In a post on the Xbox Wire, Microsoft confirmed some details about the games it'll be showing during the event, specifically when they will be releasing. All the games in this year's Developer Direct will be arriving later, with more details to be shared in the program. The post reads when answering a question about game releases. The Xbox Developer Direct on January 18th will feature appearances from Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, Avowed, Ara History Untold, and the Indiana Jones games. While the company didn't specifically state it, insider gaming sources have said that the current plan is for the Indiana Jones game to be released later this year.
Cool. I mean, it's we can't be at the place where every single presentation we're expecting a shadow drop just because we're going to end up in disappointment, right? Like that's not a feasible thing to expect for every single one of these things. I think having the first Xbox on the Developer Direct happen last January and it having Hi-Fi Rush there and then being like, yeah, it's out today. That was such a special thing. That was such a special moment. I think that set such a strong tone for what the Developer Directs are. My hope with this one is that they're able to find something that's as hype, right? Whether it is like, Indiana Jones just looks this good, right? And like, I think that could be enough to make us go, damn, that was amazing. If it's like a surprise announcement of just a game that we weren't expecting coming out later this year or next year or whatever it is, I think that stuff's great, right? I think that stuff's awesome. I think that should be the expectation for these kind of things. My question for you, Tim, is do you expect any big surprises? Do you expect something beyond the 4 games that they've listed here?
No, and honestly, I think it's there
4.
shouldn't be anything more, and I think it's silly to expect it or even want that. I feel like there shouldn't be a shadow drop at this thing. Like a shadow drop is special when there's that lightning in the bottle moment of it being a shadow drop. We don't expect. If you expect it, it's not a shadow drop.
And for shadow drops, everything needs to line up.
Yeah,
like you can't just make games happen
totally.
Out of nowhere.
And I feel like last year's Developer Direct needed that hi-fi rush moment, and it got it, and it made it so special. This one doesn't. We're getting, you got to imagine, Hellblade's release date.
Yeah.
If we don't,
God,
I think that's gonna be not a good look. Like, if you're showing that game again, it's release date time, baby.
We just got a trailer at the Game Awards. Like, the release date has to be here.
So cool. That's information we've been looking for. So if we get that, that's a win. Seeing Indiana Jones for the first time, getting information on that. If we get a release date for later this year, I feel like that's just a cherry on top. But like, we're getting a showcase of one of the bigger Xbox Game Studios games that we've been like waiting to see. Like that alone, that's a marquee. That's the headline. You have your story. You don't need to create other stories. Like if you have a shadow drop, save that for when you don't have exciting things to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I look at this lineup, I'm like, yeah, cool. This is worth having a showcase for just with what they're already telling us is going to be there. Like you don't need surprises on top of that.
What do you want them to say about Indiana Jones? Or what do you want to what do you expect to hear? Like, do you have any desires for Indiana Jones?
I mean, my desire is that it's as good as a lot of the IP games have been recently, like Spider-Man or Jedi Fallen Survivor. Like, do that for Indy.
Tim, are you going to be yelling from the rooftops, Indy?
I think we all have to. Go get him, Indiana Jones. But I mean, there's so much potential here. We talk about this a million times, Bless. Video games and Star Wars go together like peanut butter and jelly. It just makes sense. No matter what genre, it could work in that world. Indiana Jones is a little different. I think it's peanut butter and jelly with video games because it's an action adventure. Literally, like the genre itself is like it makes so much sense to translate to video games with the booby traps and the way the mystery and the story of Indiana Jones. I mean, obviously it works. Uncharted exists. Yeah, right.
Well, that's where I was going to drive to, right? Where Uncharted is obviously like this thing inspired by Indiana Jones, but also was able to kind of become its own thing because it is. All right, you got the fun main character. You have Sully, his buddy. You have a lot of climbing, a lot of destructible environments, and then like cover shooting. And those are the like key things that make Uncharted Uncharted. Are there if you were gonna pitch an Indiana Jones game, right? And like say you were gonna position it as, hey, this is our chance to have our own Uncharted. What are the things that you are bringing to the table as far as this is what makes an Indiana Jones game an Indiana Jones game? Like, are you going to go for Uncharted and go, hey, let's have a lot of destructible environments, let's have a lot of climbing, like, or are you focusing in on other elements?
So that's interesting. I do think that you can't just Uncharted beat Indy to make it an indie game, so you can't just do an Uncharted. Indy can't just do an Uncharted game. Yeah. At this point, the comparisons are going to be way too close, and they're just not going to make a Naughty Dog game. That's just not going to happen, and that's, I don't think, the goal. And guess who's making it? Machine Games. Yeah. What's the secret sauce there? Let Machine Games make an Indiana Jones game. Don't worry about the Uncharteds of the video game world. Worry about Machine Games. I think first person, if not a third person game that plays like a first person game. You know, like the level design and the way that it's set out. Like I think that Indiana Jones could be more puzzle box focused, combat puzzle box focused even than Uncharted tends to be. And Uncharted has puzzles. They're not the best part of that game. And like I think by a long shot, right? I feel like the Indiana Jones kind of combining the frenetic gameplay of a Wolfenstein and like the narrative storytelling, like linear storytelling that we have gotten from that is awesome. Yeah. I feel so confident that they can nail an Indiana Jones game. We just need to see, all right, cool, like how much beyond that does it go? It doesn't need to even go that much beyond. What if it is just it's a first person, like if it's just like Wolfenstein, but it's Indiana Jones.
I mean, if it's first person,
that's all that I need.
Right? Then I think you will get like a first person shooting campaign and like obviously have the narrative elements there that make it Indiana Jones, that have the same tempos that you get out of the movies and all that stuff. Have it be a mystery of what the fuck is the Great Circle, and then it turns out it's a time travel device or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, like I think that could work that way. I think if you're going after like the third person action thing, because I could see, I think that is one thing on the Xbox side where obviously, like, well, I mean, I even bring Xbox into it, right? Because like Indiana Jones has been in development for a while. I think before Bethesda was acquired by Microsoft, if I remember correctly. So like, I think it could go either way. If it's a third person thing though, I would love to see this game almost sit between an Uncharted and a modern Tomb Raider, where I think Tomb Raider does really cool things with open environments. I think they do really good things with explorable areas and making it feel like those games almost feel like they're open world, even though they're not really open world, right? And I think they do a good job of having that sense of discovery, finding a cave, going into it, solving the big puzzle or whatever, and getting something out of it. If I can get that sort of exploration and puzzle solving from a Tomb Raider, but then just get the fun narrative and the fun fun set pieces of an Uncharted, and even like the pacing of, all right, we're on to the next location sort of thing of Uncharted. I think that's a match made in heaven that could make it for a really good Indiana Jones game. But I would also just love it to be a third pillar of, all right, we got the Tomb Raiders, we got the Uncharteds. Indiana Jones is the IP that started it all. What is your identity in video games? I'd be really excited to see if they're able to carve something out that feels different.
So here's the thing. I feel like there's an easy answer to it, where if it is in line with the Uncharted Tomb Raider, and again, first or third person, I know that sounds like a dramatic difference. I think that the game could be very similar, whether it's first or third, in terms of like, if they made an Uncharted first person, I think that it could still feel like an Uncharted game, if that makes sense. And I think that the whip is the biggest difference. Like Indiana's whip being his weapon of choice for both combat and traversal, I feel that's where the video game things apply. To imagine him whipping the thing to like get to other places and all that. So what I hope to see is something that makes me go, I can't wait to play that. What I hope we don't see is we see this and we're like,
yeah. I hope we don't see this and go, oh, this feels like the Avatar game that just came out. No offense to Avatar, because it got like good reviews, right? And like I think there are things about that game that are really cool, right? The fact that that game looks as graphically great as it does is fucking incredible. But I think going into it, there was just a lack of excitement, right? Because you look at that and you're like, oh, that's Far Cry. They're making more Far Cry, but they're giving it an Avatar skin.
But see, that's different though. What I think is different about those two is, and I come from this as an Avatar defender.
Yeah.
Avatar and Far Cry, that does make sense. Yeah, that is what it is, right? Indiana Jones, nah, man. It's set pieces. It's things exploding as he's holding on the side of a Jeep and do-do-do-do. Like, music's just fucking hitting constantly, and like, it's insanity. Like, I think that's very different. You know what I mean? So I feel like the genre that we expect, like, Avatar made sense for Far Cry.
Yeah.
I feel like what we're probably gonna get from Indiana Jones, like, I think is more exciting. Like, the fact that it's from Machine Games, like, I think it'd be crazy to not be excited about this.
I mean, I'm somebody who I fucking love Wolfenstein 2, right? Like, that game, and I mean, for what you're talking about in terms of what makes Indiana Jones, like the fun set pieces, the fun moments, the action of it, the character stuff, right? Like, they nailed all that shit in Wolfenstein 2 in a first-person shooter. And like in that year, that was I think 2017, a year like a banger year for video games. That game stood out because of how incredible the cutscenes, how incredible the character and story work was. Yeah, if Indiana Jones is a first-person shooter, but they take all that stuff that they've been doing with Wolfenstein and apply it to Indiana Jones, I think that works great. Like, I think that actually does lead to an incredible game, and that gets me excited as somebody who really likes Wolfenstein 2 and really likes what Machine Games does with that stuff. But yeah, like I have confidence in this. Like, I'm somewhere where it's hard for me to imagine seeing the trailer to this Indiana Jones game and being bummed out by it. I can't really think of what the bad scenario looks like here.
One thing that I think is going to be very difficult for it is similar to Avatar, where there's a lot of haters of just like they see it, they're like, no, who the fuck cares about Avatar?
Yeah.
I do think that there is that for Indiana Jones as well.
You think so?
I mean, you're one of them.
Yeah, but like, I guess in the video game sense, like in the movie sense, people care a lot about Indiana Jones because it has this history to it, even though there's not been a good Indiana Jones movie in like 20 years.
And
like
that's the problem, is that the new movie wasn't that great. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't that great. Yeah. And I think that the something that you'll kind of run into with this is there is legacy to the franchise. Like, there are characters that matter to people and places and things like that when you look at Uncharted, like, look, I fucking love Uncharted. Like, we've talked about it for decades at this point of how much we love these games. Love the characters. A lot of it is just, it built on itself and we loved it in spite of itself. then you get to Uncharted 4, and it's like, all right, cool. We're paying off on all these, like, a lot of empty storytelling in a lot of ways. Amazing storytelling in others. I don't want to, like, fully shit on it. But at the end of the day, the Uncharted story and characters are not the deepest things in the world in the earlier entries. And I feel like over time, they honed their craft and got to a point that it mattered a lot more. But the similarities between Uncharted storytelling and Fast and Furious storytelling, I'm going to be honest with you. They're pretty much. I can tell you the plot of each one of them without mentioning cars or like supernatural things, and you wouldn't know which one I'm talking about.
Between Uncharted and Fast and Furious,
it's just, hey, here's this thing. Let's get the MacGuffin to get us to the next place. Oh wait, we went to the wrong place. Let's go to another place. It's like globe-trotting adventures
in that
like
sense,
with big action set pieces and comedic writing and fun, like, we did it, we saved the day type vibes. Like, it's an action adventure. It's a good thing. Uncharted 4, though, and Lost Legacy elevated that. It gave it a more like, hey, let's add some weight to the story of like what these adventures have done to these characters, you know? Like, we talk about God of War a lot of 2018 of like how it took something that was like a little more schlocky and fun as fuck, but like made it mean something more. My worry with an Indiana Jones coming in out the gate as a video game is to try to take all that stuff that means something to people from characters and stories and like the iconography of it all, like to make that all matter without having the Uncharted 1 through 3s to get there, I think is going to be a really, really, really tall order for people like you. And I mean, even people like me that, like, all things considered, I enjoy the Indiana Jones movies. I watched them all for the first time during In Review recently, and I was like, I get it, but I think a lot of the issues I have with Uncharted are also here. Like, so I just think that it's going to be with Wolfenstein. There's less expectations from the characters and story because there's less people tied to like they got to get this right. Yeah, he's wearing the wrong hat.
I mean, Wolfenstein is when you look at the history of Wolfenstein, right? Like Wolfenstein came through and it was a revolutionary shooter. But yeah, like the story and characters wasn't a thing that mattered because like in most games back then, that was like an empty thing, right? Oh man, let's just make a game about shooting Nazis. Oh man, let's make a game about a dude who takes mushrooms and gets bigger and hits blocks and shit, right? Like you're not really thinking that hard about it. But the fact that we have such a good story in the most recent Wolfensteins is like a, oh shit, like you nailed it. And yeah, Indiana Jones is kind of the reverse where you start off in those first few movies are revered by fans. They're classics. People love them. But we've not gotten one of those in decades. In the last couple of movies have been bad to okay. And I'm in this weird place with it because I'm kind of playing both sides of it, where I am on the side of like, it's Indiana Jones, you know, like have we not cared about Indiana Jones for like the last few decades? But I'm also on the side of this could be the first good Indiana Jones thing in the last few decades, and 100%. That could be big for this game if they come through and it's like, oh, this is the definitive Indiana Jones thing for the last 30 years. Maybe that does really great for it.
That's where my money is. I'm rooting for it. I'm really excited to see it. And we're not going to have to wait too long. Isn't it tomorrow? Yeah. Right?
I think it's Thursday.
Thursday? Yeah. All right, it's Thursday. Thursday we're doing it. 2 days till we see Indy. Story number 2. TLOU 2 Remastered review roundup. Currently it's sitting at a 92 on Metacritic and a 91 on OpenCritic. Destructoid gives it a 9 out of 10. For players who fell in love with the PS4 game, a shot to replay it won't be declined quickly, but the remaster comes packed with content to ensure the experience is worthwhile. One of my favorite features is the director's commentary, which genuinely expanded my view of TLOU Part 2's world and Naughty Dog's artistic vision. I'd highly advise you to turn it on if you've watched all the cinematics a couple of times already. It isn't overused, so you won't be dealing with chattering in your ear the whole time, but when it does kick in, you're seldom left without learning something new, even if it's something minor like discovering that freeing the zebra as one of Abby's flashbacks was originally designed as a minigame. It also directed my attention to characters like Jesse, who I had originally overlooked but now have a greater appreciation for the crucial role he plays in the overall narrative. Perhaps the largest draw for some players will be the inclusion of 3 lost levels. These are encounters that were conceptualized and developed to some degree, but were still months away from completion before it was decided they would be cut. Each lost level is introduced by Druckmann, who gives some context regarding the scene and why it isn't in the final game. All very cool stuff there.
Very cool stuff.
Andrew Webster at The Verge, it's an unscored review. I'll admit that during my first playthrough of Last of Us 2, the finer nuances of the combat were mostly lost on me. I spent most of that time being stressed out, doing whatever I could to survive. That meant relying on stealth and explosive weaponry as much as possible, so the idea of a roguelike mode focused entirely on combat didn't seem all that appealing to me, but I'm happy to say I was wrong. I found myself instead trying to play through each round of No Return as efficiently as possible. You move through a series of relatively short and self-contained stages, and the goal frequently changes. Sometimes you're fighting off waves of enemies, other times you have to survive an onslaught of bad guys for a set period of time. My favorite's basically a heist where you have to break into a heavily guarded safe. I also experimented with different weapon types as opposed to the main game where I stuck with what worked and didn't feel compelled or required to change things up. I'm not sure how long No Return will hold me, but it's given me a new appreciation for an element of the game I'd otherwise ignored. So you weren't on PS I Love You for the review of this. Have you got to play any of it?
I played a little bit of it. Yeah, I started playing the No Return mode. It's that weird thing where we got the review code around the same time I was playing God of War Valhalla. And so I looked at both and I'm like, I think I'm going to commit to Valhalla. And I beat Valhalla and I was kind of rogueliked out. And it's funny because I gave the preview on it. And I had a lot of glowing things to say about No Return during the preview. But God of War Valhalla was just like oh, damn, okay, I'm getting a roguelite with God of War combat that's making me love the combat of this game more, and also comes with a lot of great narrative to it. And like playing that and then like trying to go back to No Return, I was like, I can't return. I can't return to this. Like I want to get to it at some point because I do love the Last of Us gameplay. But I think the thing with me and The Last of Us 2 remaster, it's just like I don't feel like replaying that game for some reason. Like I can't bring myself to come back. When I first played Last of Us 2, it was such a, like grueling, like we're at the beginning, near the beginning of the pandemic. I am stuck at home. I'm sad. And I'm playing this game that's about being violent to each other, right? And like, I played it, finished it, and was like, damn, like this is a work of art. But like that was all. It was also one of those ones where I was like, once I come back to this maybe years from now, right? Like it almost feel like I'm reliving that moment again. I want to get to it maybe at some point. Like I don't want to not ever revisit The Last of Us Part 2. I think I just got to be in the right state of mind for it. But I think one thing I am fascinated by going through the review roundup, I want to shout out, I didn't get to read this review. I saw it pop up on Twitter, and then as the morning went, I saw people sharing it around. There's a review from Giovanni Colantonio over at Digital Trends, and it's a more negative-leaning review. They tweeted out, okay, let's talk about Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, perhaps the most poorly timed, mistitled, and egregiously tone-deaf double dip of all time. And they kind of go into their own thoughts of like, yeah, like how he feels that the No Return mode kind of undermines the core message of the game, of being this game about commentary on violence, commentary on revenge, all this stuff, but then having this mode that is like fucking, all right, let's kill each other, like let's gamify it, let's do all that shit. I find that idea fascinating. Again, I want to go into it and read it more. But just to like share another side of like the review roundup there. But yeah, like I think it's. I guess my question for you is, are you interested in going back to Last of Us Part 2 through the remaster?
Oh, I'm already started.
Oh, yeah?
And I can't believe it, man. Yeah, I love Last of Us Part 2, and I've been looking for a reason to go back to it. My biggest problem is time. Like, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to sit and play through the whole thing. But yeah, I'm like making my way through Jackson right now. I am blown away by the visuals of this thing, man. Like, was this an upgrade necessary? Absolutely not. Am I happy it exists? Yeah, dude. It's gorgeous. Playing this on the PS5 it's unbelievable, man. I just can't believe where we're at when it's rare that games can just work this well and be this technically advanced. But when they are and it's just singing, there's nothing like it, man. I cannot believe the fidelity that they got going on with this, and just like the DualSense integration and the Atmos soundtrack and everything. Like technically, I'm like, yeah, you took one of my favorite gaming experiences, my favorite, like, holy shit, let's push the boundaries technically experience and push them even further. So loving that. The No Return stuff I haven't played yet.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like something I'm going to be that into. And I do think that there's a lot of salient points there. And I think that the poorly timed release thing, like to me specifically, is in relation to God of War Valhalla, which I loved.
Well, I assume it's more in relation to the war in Palestine.
Yeah, and that's always going to be like there's going to be something no matter what. Like when it comes to when you make a game that is that violent and that does have something to say like that, I don't think at this point in our lives there's ever going to be a good time to put it out. So yes, he's right, absolutely. But God of War Valhalla, I think it's one of the more interesting PlayStation Studios decisions to have these two released so close together. With the pricing structure they do too, like all of it.
Yeah.
I've said this a million times, Bless, but how was Valhalla free? How?
It's crazy.
How?
Yeah.
And so that notwithstanding, like I'm excited to play through this as much as I can now. I had never platinumed the first one, so I feel like it's a good excuse for me to like
Maybe
platinum
go back
it this
and do
time. So that's kind of like where I'm at. But I think the director's commentary stuff is extremely exciting. I want to see more of that in games. The lost levels, like all that stuff's cool. And like for this just being what it is, like not everybody needs to buy this. Like I don't think that this is egregious. Is it mistitled? And sure.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the thing is like I think calling it a remaster is the thing that rubs people the wrong way, right? Like I think if it's called Last of Us 2 Director's Cut, then it feels a bit more accurate to what it is. But also, like, who cares? Like, it's at that point, it is semantics, right? It is like, oh, but you called it one thing and another thing. But
it's almost like giving us the label director's cut as like a PlayStation brand was kind of a stupid idea in the first place.
Yeah, but I think it's like comes down to like who's the people naming it, right? Like, is it on PlayStation to name it, or is it on Naughty Dog to go, hey, we want to call it a remaster, and like maybe the Sucker Punch are the ones that wanted to call their thing a director's cut. Like, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Like, this is one that, like, I guess I'm very curious and excited to see, like, what Naughty Dog's next thing is. Because in the last couple of months of discourse and conversation, and I guess last 4 years of discourse and conversation about Last of Us 2, I appreciate the level of seriousness in which people take video game stories and video games as art and are willing to grapple with them in a way where it's like, no, let's really, like, look into these things. Let's, like, fucking, like, analyze and get in there and do all this shit. And for Last of Us 2, it's led to this conversation that at so many points are interesting, but at quite a few points as well are like, oh man, we're getting into toxic territory with how we're talking about this thing. I'm curious to see if Naughty Dog sticks to making something that is controversial, making something that is like going to rub a lot of the audience the wrong way with their next thing, whether it is Last of Us 3 or a new IP. I'm just excited to see that.
Yeah, I think that they will, but I don't think that that's like the philosophy behind it. Like, I don't think it's about like, oh, let's make something divisive.
For sure.
I think it's let's make something worth talking about. And like things that are worth talking about are inherently divisive because of the world we live in. So yeah, I imagine whatever they're doing is going to. I mean, earlier we were talking about the Uncharted series and everything I was saying of like you compare the earlier Uncharteds to Uncharted 4 and beyond. It's like that's where Naughty Dog is, and I don't see them going back from that. But I do think that the no return mode, like the points that Giovanni, is that what you're saying?
I can double check. I think it was Giovanni.
The points they're making there, like, again, there's something there about like this entire game is about not continuing the cycle of violence, and then hey, here's a game mode that's literally the cycle of violence. Like, yeah, there's a conversation there. I don't think the conversation needs to go that far. Like, it's a video game, and it's like this is a story. It's not like they're Naughty Dog's out here morally trying to tell us like violence is bad. You should never shoot in a video game again. That's not the point of it. You know what I mean? But it's like, but there's a conversation there. Like,
I think there's a conversation, and I think it could go deeper, right? Like, it's the weird thing of video games being so many things, right? Video games being a technology, video games being narrative, video games being gameplay, and like having to decide which to prioritize when. And so then like one of the I forget what content. I think this was maybe the interview we had on PS Love You with the director of the No Return mode, where we were like, yeah, like, did you guys consider narrative? Did you consider story or whatever? And he was just like, yeah, but like when you're making a mode where people can like turn invisible and attack you, like what story in the Last of Us world are you gonna do to justify that? Whereas in like something like God of War, it's fantasy, right? It's Greek/Norse mythology, and so you can go do crazier things with it. You can make Valhalla operate in this like crazy way. But yeah, like I don't know. Like, I don't know if the answer is to go, hey, we have this game that is about violence, that is a commentary on violence, and is about stopping the cycle of violence, that has gameplay and violence that feels so good in the gameplay. But we're not gonna do anything else with that. It's like, no, give me that game mode because I love roguelites. I love your gameplay. I'm down to play it. But I think you just have to reckon with the fact that those two things are going to be at odds with each other, and it is what it is, right? Like, if I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus, and this is going to be actually a very direct example, like Shadow of the Colossus, when you beat that game, has like a speed run mode. I forget if this is just the Blue Point specific version, or if the original had this too. I think the original might have had something, unless I'm thinking of the remaster for PS3. I digress. There's like a speedrun mode where it's like, hey, now kill the Colossuses as fast as possible. That's tone deaf as well, right? To what the story of that game is and what the themes are. But that's just video games. Like, that is sort of the battle that you have to have. And I think that conversation is fascinating. Like, I think I'd love to see like even more GDC talks about, like, I guess what the technical term for it would be, ludonarrative dissonance. Like, I think there's another conversation to be had about that stuff when it comes to something like this, or like what I mentioned with Shadow of the Colossus. Is that something you dig in a review? Is that something you point out in a review? Is that something you like, that's going to hold the game back for certain people? I think yes. I think no at the same time. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, for sure. Again, when something's worth talking about, it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
So
we talk about it.
We talk about it, baby. And we're going to keep talking about things. And if you want to get us talking about things ad-free, you got to go to patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames and become a Kinda Funny member. But for everyone else, here's a word from our sponsors.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Snowbike Mike's Bills are a 9.5-point favorite against the Steelers, and Andy's Dallas Cowboys are a 7-point favorite against the Green Bay Packers. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code KindaFunny. New customers can just bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code KindaFunny. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code KindaFunny.
Real quick, I saw in the chat, Jesus was saying that the article by Giovanni was just a thing. He's like, we don't need to be offended by it. To be clear, not offended. I think it's awesome. Like,
oh yeah,
like that's the point. Is that like there's so many things to have nuanced opinions about when it comes to Last of Us, because by design that's there. And when they give us a narrative that does have such strong perspective on video game violence, and then you make a mode that's about that video game violence because it's fun. Yeah, there's a conversation there. Like, is it appropriate? Is it not? Like, that's a conversation. I think it's very interesting. I might not agree with certain parts of it, but like, that does not make it wrong at all. Right? Like, both are right. And I think that's the brilliance of all of this. But moving on to story number 3, Rockstar owner Take-Two is locked in a trademark dispute with Remedy over this R logo. Ryan Dinsdale at IGN. Take-Two Interactive, the owner of Grand Theft Auto 6 developer Rockstar Games, and Remedy Entertainment, the studio behind Alan Wake 2, are locked in a trademark dispute over their R depicting logos. As first reported by Respawn First, Take-Two filed a trademark dispute against Remedy in the UK over the rebranded logo it released last year. Its logo now solely depicts the letter R, or sometimes styled with Remedy underneath, which Take-Two seemingly believes is too similar to Rockstar's own R logo.
You know whose side I'm on, Tim?
Whose side?
Listen, all right? I'm with The Rock.
Jesus Christ, Grubbs? Do you guys see Grubbs' fucking response to this tweet?
Oh, I saw that this morning, yeah.
God.
Oh, wow.
Listen, hey,
not even going to read that. Not going to read that out. God damn.
Shout out to Jeff Grubb just going for it. Sometimes comedy is sacrifice. No, this is interesting for multiple reasons. Like, Remedy is working with Rockstar currently on their Max Payne remix. And so I love the idea that like the creative teams like get together, like they're doing a meeting and they're like, yeah, so this is our update on the Max Payne remake. Also, do you know mom and dad are fighting about the logo? And they're like, yeah, it's kind of weird, right? It's like, yeah, all right, back to Max Payne. So that's fun. But also, like, Tim, you're into marketing and branding and stuff at times, right? Like you grapple a lot with that stuff. Is there a case here?
I mean, you can sue anybody for anything. Like that's just how the whole system works. I don't think that this one's gonna pass. Like, I think that these are different enough that I don't think.
Also,
that
what's their argument that like they own the letter R?
The capital R.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in seeing like what the actual wording is.
Yeah, like I would bet, like I think we might be able to find it if I look deeply, but like I bet you would say, as a video game, like we're both video game developers, and so like having very prominent capital R's that are our logo, people could get that confused.
Yeah.
Like usually these kind of things are about like people, like the general audience being confused over which thing is which.
Yeah, I don't think this is actually going to go too many places, but there also is just the fear tactic of like you put this out there and then be like, I don't even want to deal with this because you know who I wouldn't want to fuck with? Rockstar's legal team.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why I think like maybe
all right, I don't want that smoke, man.
And that's why I think maybe Remedy does change it. Is like, yeah, one, it's Rockstar, and Rockstar has access to unlimited money, and then also you're working with Rockstar, and like
that doesn't mean anything.
You
though.
don't think
like,
so?
I feel like that the working together stuff. It's like we're talking about thousands and thousands of people that work at these companies that are completely unrelated, and like. They're so far removed. I mean, that'd be like back when I worked at IGN when they were owned by Fox. I'm like, we have nothing to do with Fox.
Yeah,
absolutely nothing to do with Fox.
But I could see him being like some people somewhere in the lineup being like, hey, like we don't mind changing the logo. Like we love them. Like let's not make things weird or whatever. Like I'm not, like, and again, like you're right that there are so many layers to it that it's like these teams with people working on both these things are unrelated.
The more interesting thing, Lil Cars in the chat says Eminem is suing two Real Housewives because they named a podcast Reasonably Shady, and he's like, no, you can't do that.
Why?
Yeah.
Reasonably Shady?
Mm-hmm. He had some like t-shirt line that had like those words on it at some point.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I've never heard the word reasonably in Eminem's
and
lexicon.
The idea, I know it's very funny, but the idea that housewives are being sued by Eminem, and he's probably gonna win, very funny to me. But yeah, this stuff, we'll see where it goes. I personally think this is just, we're not gonna hear about this again. I think it just moves on. Man.
I'm literally on trademarks.gov.uk. I can't find any like specifics of what they're saying about the logo, and so I think it is just like, hey, it looks similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Story number 4, Game Developers Choice Awards released their finalists. This comes from Dean Takahashi at VentureBeat. Rounding out a long season of awards, the Game Developers Choice Awards announced its finalists for the best games of 2023. This year, the GDCA nominations are led by Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, which each received a total of 7 nominations, including Game of the Year, followed by Cocoon, which received 5 total nominations, including Game of the Year. The nominations are peer-based awards decided by game developers. The complete list, go for it.
Oh, I was gonna. So one, you're about to. I have some of the list of nominees here. I didn't list the full list. There's like a link to it, but I listed some choice categories I thought were interesting. I did want to say though that isn't it crazy that whenever we're reading off like these nomination stories, that when you get to the part where it says, "Oh, the nominations are led by." This last year, it's just an ad lib. It could be anything that fills in that next thing. I think this is the first time I've seen Zelda lead in nominations.
Yeah.
In 2023,
which
is insane.
It really is, man. God, and I was saying this yesterday, Bless, but with Prince of Persia right now coming out 2 weeks in January, I'm like, we're keeping the train rolling, man.
Oh yeah.
We haven't had that like month of like, oh man, there's not a great game yet.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think it's gonna end.
I put out a tweet last night that just said, yo, video games, they're happening. Let me tell you,
they be
happening.
Best debut nominees are Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Venba, and Viewfinder. Best design, we got Baldur's Gate 3, Cocoon, Dredge, Hi-Fi Rush, and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Innovation Award potentially goes to Baldur's Gate 3, Cocoon, Hi-Fi Rush, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and The Making of Karateka.
Gary Whitta.
Yeah. Best Narrative, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Zelda, Venba. Best Technology, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Starfield, Zelda, and Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Spider-Man 2, Zelda.
What a wild year. But also, best technology. I love when I see a category where I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of that, and that's great.
I want to think about it.
Yeah, let me think about it. Best technology.
Best technology, and let's nominate Starfield.
Yeah, it was the procedural generation. They made a bunch of planets. No, that's not been done before. Nobody's made a bunch of planets using procedural generation.
Okay.
Not never.
We got 2 super chats in about the Rockstar story. Chrono Rig says, who would win in a legal battle, Nintendo's lawyers or Rockstar's lawyers?
Nintendo's.
I mean, here's the thing, man. Rockstar got that endless money, though.
Yeah, see, that's interesting, because I just think of Nintendo just going after, like, the little guy.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like, so yeah,
that's the thing.
There might be a good point where, like, they're good and used to, like, punching down, but maybe not punching
Here's my thing.
side by
With
side.
Nintendo's lawyers, like, they're seasoned. Like, they've been in the gym working out. Like,
Some of Rockstar's,
It's that, but, like, I feel like Nintendo's more, puts them to work more. right? Like they're just out there suing every fucking day.
I don't know, man. I think Rockstar's people are out there and we just don't even know it. That's
You
how
think
good
so?
they are.
Damn.
I think they're taking down motherfuckers left and right.
I heard
And we just don't
Roger's
know?
actually a plant from Rockstar.
Holy shit.
I'm putting Nintendo's lawyers above Rockstar's lawyers. I'm sorry.
And then Jordan Irwin says, I don't like being that guy, but maybe this is an opportunity for Remedy to make a better logo. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I think it's bad.
Can you bring up the Remedy logo again, Barrett?
I like it. I think it fits them.
I did. Yeah, I don't mind it. Oh
It's
yeah,
not like, I don't know.
it's like it looks like
It's
an
not
R.
bad, but it's not like, oh shit, that's a logo.
But like Remedy's weird. It's weird. It's like, look, we got more. There's layers to this shit.
That's the thing is, I feel like this logo fits who Remedy are as developers. Like I look at this logo and I think Alan Wake 2.
Yep.
You know, like it looks like a logo trying to escape.
Clean
from itself.
design, but also there's deeper layers.
There's deeper layers, and also they're got like a whole they're doing a whole Remedy connected universe, and so it's almost like hey, we got different parts that are all part of the same thing.
I wouldn't want to wear it on a shirt.
That is true. I'm wearing a Rockstar logo on a shirt way before I wear a Remedy logo on a shirt, as evidence right now because I'm wearing a Rockstar logo on my shirt.
Story number 5: Square Enix's Foamstars will launch next month via PlayStation Plus. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Square Enix has announced that its 4v4 shooter Foamstars will launch on February 6th. Wow, that's
weeks from now.
very, 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 very close. As a 4v4 shooter, 4 days after Suicide Squad. As a PlayStation Plus monthly game. The game will be available for subscribers to redeem at no additional cost until March 5th, after which it will be sold in the PlayStation Store for $30. Speaking to VGC ahead of the announcement, the producer said Square Enix decided to negotiate a PS Plus deal because with a PvP game like this, the biggest risk for us is that there aren't enough people playing it.
Tim Geddes loves it. That's facts. They preaching.
This is it.
They spit.
This is what we've been saying for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Right? If you're
Put it in
going to do a
people's
game
hands.
like this, get it out there. Let the people fucking play it. Put it on PlayStation Plus. Yes.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing, because you say 4 days after Suicide Squad, which is facts.
Mm-hmm.
It's also 2 days before Helldivers 2, which makes me ask the question:
What's going on?
What are y'all doing out there? Like, I think it's like you said, right? It's great that it's coming out to PS Plus. I think that's genius. This is the type of game that you want to have on PS Plus because I don't think people are going to show up to buy, show up in droves to buy it full price, right? Like, I think this is a thing that you need to put in people's hands so it can prove itself. So yeah, that's a great move. But like, this is a game that is. I don't think it's published by PlayStation. Well, I guess it's published by Square Enix, right? Because it's a Square Enix game. But it's promoted by PlayStation. It was part of that PlayStation showcase that happened last year. It's a PlayStation exclusive game, just like Helldivers 2, right? Helldivers 2 is a game that's actually being published by PlayStation. Both these games are sort of in that live service initiative. These are games that PlayStation's trying to push that are multiplayer. Why are they coming out 2 days apart from each other? That seems like a very bad idea if you're trying to build a cadence for these things, especially for games that thrive off of having a fan base. So you're telling me Foamstars is going to come out on PlayStation Plus, and then Helldivers 2? I know I've heard chat. You're wrong. What is the deal with Helldivers 2? Is it like a full price game? Are you buying it to play it? Let me know. That just seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then also, days after Suicide Squad, which also had a PlayStation State of Play last year. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that you're bringing up a lot of really good points here. The final bit here is that Rich Briggs, homie of the show, says Square Enix's who is Square Enix's executive director of publishing strategy, called the PS Plus deal an easy win for Foamstars, and said he hoped it would help the game quickly establish a community of players. Awesome.
Yeah.
The right way to think about this stuff. Foamstars is an interesting one where, not saying it's the best thing ever, but when we were at Summer Game Fest last year, that was a surprise for us. When we all played it together, it was like, there's fun to be had here. Like, this is cool. And I do think, getting it out there to people that have PlayStation Plus is absolutely the right move for this game. Maybe the only move for this game. So rooting for it there. But yeah, I do think that it's a little precariously timed when you bring Helldivers into the mix. I think the Suicide Squad thing, a little bit more apples to oranges, but I mean, PlayStation themselves, but just a little bit.
Suicide Squad, I think, is just it's the biggest name out of them, right? Like, I don't know, I'm not saying it's gonna be better or whatever, right? But like, I think Suicide Squad as a quote unquote live service game has the most cachet in terms of attention. Like, it's DC, it's Rocksteady, people have their eyes on it, whether it succeeds or fails. Like, it's all attention toward that. And then you have Foamstars and Helldivers 2, which I think are coming in a bit under the radar. Like, Foamstars, I would never have expected this was coming out next month. If you'd asked me, I'd be like, oh yeah, probably later in the year, I guess.
totally.
I don't know. And like, you could have snuck this thing out, and I probably wouldn't have known. You could have told me this thing came out last December. I would have been like, oh, I guess so. Yeah.
Is Helldivers really coming out next month? Like, is that like, oh, yo, it's
I
happening?
think so. Yeah. Like, it had a trailer at the Game Awards.
Has a date.
It has a date. It was supposed to come out last fall and then got delayed into February. And so I think it is, unless I think the only reason I could see it being delayed is if PlayStation looks at this February slate and goes, no, this is a bad idea, which maybe could happen. I think that'd be a good idea, honestly. Because, yeah, as I look through February as well, like, we're talking about those 3 games, but then you're also talking about games like Persona 3 Reload. You're talking about Ultros. You're talking about, there's Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but I don't think that's competition here. Skull and Bones.
Show some goddamn respect.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure somebody's showing up to the store and being like, oh, what do I want to play? Fucking
I don't think any of the games you named
Foamstars or Mario versus Donkey Kong.
Those games are, I mean, what? What's your argument there?
No, that there's no competition between those two.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. 'Cause, like, I feel like more people would go for Mario.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean,
all these games are in a
I think
weird
it's
place.
simple enough to Mario vs. Donkey Kong's not coming to Nintendo Switch Online. It's being sold and it's going to sell well.
Well, how well do you think
Foamstars
Mario versus Donkey Kong is going to sell?
I mean, millions.
Like
Maybe 2?
Okay,
maybe,
I was saying
1 point something.
maybe
but
2
I mean,
million, but
yeah, a remake of a GBA game. Like,
yeah, okay. Like, I think we're
but
saying the
it's
same
still,
thing.
I think it'll sell more than Foamstars.
But what I'm basically saying though is that February is packed with games.
Yeah.
And I think at some point it doesn't matter like the genre and type of game. I think the fact that there's just so many games for people to play. I look at last year and you saw how like Destiny underperformed and like a lot of the games or service games have been underperforming. I think part of that is just like attention span and like maybe like just the hype dying down for those kind of games. But I think a big part of it is that just more and more games are coming out, and even with like certain audiences where it's like, oh no, this is a live service audience, they're gonna show up either way. I think there are more games to take people's attention. And February is gonna be is one of those months because you're talking about a month that ends with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Big games, real big games,
real big games. A lot of big news too.
But bless, I'm tired of talking about all that big news.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted something smaller, say the tiniest news I needed to know about, where would I look?
You'd look toward our last story, the Wii News channel, where we cover all the small news items you need to know about. We need the music.
Time for some Wii News.
There we go.
Square Enix has confirmed its upcoming PlayStation shooter Foamstars contains some AI-generated art. Oh, this is interesting coming into the Wii News. This could have been with the other part. From VGC, at a recent press event, VGC asked Foamstars' producer if AI was used for any elements of the game, and he confirmed it had. Okatani claimed that while the vast majority of the game was built by hand, it had used Midjourney, a popular generative AI tool that transforms text prompts into visual art to create a small number of art for in-game icons. So, yeah, here we are. We're in the world.
Scary out there. It's happening.
It's happening now. GSC Game World has confirmed another delay for Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. The game will now arrive on September 5th, 2024.
All right, fall's starting to pick up.
Controversial horror game Martha is Dead is getting a movie adaptation.
All right.
Great.
Yo, is that the one that Greg reviewed?
Yeah. 2 out of 5?
Oh,
Right?
Yeah, he gave it a bad
so.
review.
For a long time, the lowest review. Kind of funny. Until Roger Pagorni came in and golmed it up.
Well,
Yeah.
Remember, and that was only until like we kind of made him talk about it more because he originally gave it a 2.
Yeah, he was gonna give it a 2, and we were like, "Are you sure Golem's a 2? You make it sound like a 1."
And then coming soon in Game Pass, we have Those Who Remain today. On the 18th, we got Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. God, he's just out there getting jobs.
Yeah, dude.
F123 as well. On January 19th, Pal World. Very interested in this. Finally coming. It's Pokemon.
Oh, this
with
is where
guns.
they gave the Pokemon guns.
On January 25th, we got Go Mecha Ball. January 30th, Brotato.
Whoa.
It's like a potato with bros. And then on Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, Persona 3 Reload, followed by on February 6th, Anacard coming. Want to give a shout out, Persona 3 Reload coming to Game Pass. That's
huge.
Pretty damn huge, man.
Yeah.
Like to contextually think about that, like to think of the work that Xbox has done to build Game Pass, but then also to build relationships with Japanese developers and to get something like the Persona 3 fucking remake on Game Pass. Hell yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, and I think recently they took off Persona 3 Portable, which makes sense, like timing wise, of like not wanting to have that like overlap and confusion. So yeah, they really want to push the remake, which is smart.
I do want to shout out a couple super chats. Irish Nexus writes in and says, "Marvel Snap new card Mike is out today. Miek. Meek.
Meek, the guy with the scissor hands from Thor Ragnarok.
No way.
Meek.
That's
worm guy.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. That's way more exciting than a random dude named Mike.
Let's get into You're Wrong a little bit. See
Also,
what we
shout out
got.
to CJ Splitson, who super chatted that he's liking the cut. Appreciate it.
Yeah, CJ Splits on sets in like in the cut, bless, and Irish Nexus says, oh wait, you already got those
I
two.
got that
Sorry,
one.
my bad.
I will say they cut my hair shorter than I wanted. I didn't want him to cut anything off the top, and then he started razing off the top, and I'm like, whoa. And so it's shorter than I want, but it looks good, and so I'm not mad.
Yeah, I feel like the sides are what matter most, like those looking good, because
Yeah.
the top, the top's
Yeah,
the power. You got
exactly.
the power, baby. What's your dream hairstyle? Like, what would you,
It
especially with all the fucking like conversation going on right now? Like,
It
where
used
are you
to
at?
be the hairstyle that's fucking going crazy right now, where like the Killmonger cut, right? Where it is like the like locks that
We can cut the music,
essentially-
by the way.
Oh yeah, we can cut the music. The locks that would sort of like, drape off to the side and having a fade on the side. Like that was a haircut that I was gonna go for. Like I was like, yo, that's the one. I fucking love that. But now every single black fictional character has that hairstyle, and it's become like the new cornrows / afros meme, where like every developer or like artist, character artist saw Killmonger and was like, that's the one. And yeah, every single character has that. So now I don't want to get it anymore, because I know if I get it, people are gonna be like, oh, they got our boy. Like, damn, add another one to the list, and they're gonna put me next to Eddie Gordo from Tekken 8. But yeah, I don't know. Now I don't know. Now I don't know what I want to do with my hair. Maybe I will just get straight up like locks, but not those locks. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll figure out.
Yeah, I've been wanting to change my hair up, but I just don't have anything that I'm like, that's going to be better than what I got. Because forever.
Your hair is great.
I wanted to do the Pidgeotto. I wanted to do the Pidgeot of just going straight back. You know what I mean? More shaved on both sides instead of just the one side. Or, You know what I'm saying? And I just don't know that I can do it. I'm scared.
No?
Scared. But one day, everybody, we'll see.
I do want to shout out a few things from the Wii news, right? So, Stalker 2 Harder Chernobyl getting a release date. That's big. That's one of those games where I wasn't expecting this game to ever come out. There's the war in Ukraine. Because of that, like a lot of the people that worked on this game were serving. Like they were out there on the streets, like like protecting and serving. And then a lot of them had to pick up and like move to a new country, right? So I was like, oh, this game's not happening. Like I the fact that they've been able to pick it up and like, actually get this game out, or at least have a date for it. Good on that. Good on y'all. Like I'm rooting for y'all. But then also, yeah, Martha is Dead getting a movie adaptation. With video game movies, are we at a place where it's just like adapt everything? Because isn't Fort Solace also getting a thing?
Yeah.
Like, random games are getting adaptations.
But I mean, that's the same thing as like comic books, where it's like, yes, there's been comic adaptations for a very long time of everything, and then the Marvel ones did it right, the DC ones did it right with Dark Knight trilogy and things like that. So it's like we see now just like literally everything, and there's a rush. I think video games are going to be the same way, where it's like and just like books before it, it's like if there's a world and a story, it can be adapted, and that's easier than coming up with something new. So, and it's easier to make, it's easier to sell, it's easier to get a return on.
Yeah, which is wild, because there was a tweet, I mentioned this tweet before, but there's a tweet from Emma Watkins talking when they showed off footage for the Gravity Rush movie. He was like, we're at a place where video game budgets have gotten to a place where they balloon so much that it is like, it makes more business sense to just make a Gravity Rush movie than to ever make another game. And that is wild to me.
It really is, man.
Like, what are we doing at now? Like, we're making movies of games that not to, I don't want to disparage Gravity Rush, because I know so many people love Gravity Rush, but it's like, we're making another movie and not another game? Like, what, does this make sense?
But I mean, maybe it's both, right? Like, I mean, they announced Patapon, right? They announced a game. And didn't they say like new games and
well, I think that was just like a concept type thing.
But whatever, it's like I think that we've seen that making a movie is marketing for the next game. It's funding, it's building like goodwill towards the IP. So
I don't think it's impossible. Like, I think there's a good chance that maybe we could get another Gravity Rush game. I would be shocked if there was another Gravity Rush game.
But I think that there is going to be a higher chance than ever, because there's a movie coming out or a show, whatever it's going to be. Like, if people like it, then it's like, oh, cool. This is like the proof of concept. This is our way to get Knack back.
Make a Knack movie. At this point, I would not be shocked if they made a Knack movie. They're like, oh, we'll make it like Big Hero 6. Just so we can make a Knack.
Oh, I love it. Little You're Wrong action here. Kebab says the City of Angels is Los Angeles, while the Windy City is Chicago.
The
Big Apple is New York. What's San
Big Apple.
Francisco? Fucking
The
poop city. It's ever whatever.
yeah, the what's his name? Keith
Lee.
Lee. I was gonna say the city that Keith David had a dip from.
That's
Keith Lee.
very fucking funny.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about Keith Lee, and I keep seeing his name come
he's a
up.
treasure.
There's a wrestler named Keith Lee, or at least formerly known as Keith Lee,
Yeah.
and so I always think of him. And
So you're like, oh, the wrestler came
I'm
to
like,
San
this-
Francisco
none
and
of
got
this makes
drove
any
out.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
God bless Keith Lee's heart.
yeah.
Yeah, like he's the
Is
best.
that what it is?
Yeah, he's.
Oh,
I mean,
I thought Keith Lee was bad.
the food dude who's
I have
on
no
TikTok.
fucking idea.
No, he's great. He's
Okay.
wonderful. Yeah, no, he's precious. I love him. But yeah, no,
He's a food dude.
he's a food critic.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
You're telling me
He
so
had,
he's
he had a
not the
bad trip
wrestler.
to
He's also not a country singer?
no.
Wow.
But
I mean, I think
he
there might
had
be a country singer.
He had a bad trip to Oakland recently. I know that.
Yeah, that's the thing is like he came to Oakland. Like what he does is he goes to cities, and when he's going to cities, people will like be like, oh, hit up this restaurant, yeah, and he'll like do food reviews all around that town. And like usually like when he does a review for your restaurant, like it'll fucking like skyrocket the amount of people that go to it. And so he came to San Francisco. A lot of people got hyped, but were like, oh, go here, go here, go here. He gets here, and he visits a bunch of restaurants. He in the video that he put up about it, he was like, hey, I'm not gonna put out any of these reviews because when I make food reviews, even the bad ones, I have something constructive to say. And he was just like, I don't have anything constructive to say. Like the videos that I was making were just mean. And so I don't want to put out the reviews. He also talked about how San Francisco is not like a great place for tourists currently. And he also talked about how he went to one restaurant and I forget what the thing was, but he's allergic to a specific thing. And he asked like, oh, is there anything of this thing like on the fryer or whatever? And they're like, oh no, we'll clean it or whatever. And he ended up still getting an allergic reaction when he went to the restaurant, had to go to the hospital. And so he just had an overall bad trip to the Bay Area.
This is nothing like I would have ever expected from Keith Lee. That's so funny.
Yeah, no, he's a great dude. Like his reviews are also so like positive and like I don't know. I really like his content, but he had a bad trip.
I mean, did he name the restaurants?
No,
Gotta name them. Receipts, baby. I want to know.
No, that's the thing is like he was like I don't want to even like.
He wasn't trying to put people on.
He wasn't trying to put people on blast.
He was just
which
trying
I
to
respect.
explain like why he didn't put up like all of the other stuff. And granted, I know more about this than I did 3 weeks ago because the reason I learned about Keith Lee was just because Roger and Mike were stoked that he was coming.
That's hella funny.
Yeah, shellfish was his allergy. There was also a whole thing where him and his family went to a restaurant, I think in Atlanta, and they treated him so badly because they didn't realize who he was. Or maybe it was his family, I forget which, but basically like he put up the review and it was a whole thing. Like it was a whole thing. Like people were like, how the fuck are you going to have Keith Lee in your city and not act correct? Because like that's him. It's like having Gordon Ramsay being like, yo, I'm coming to San Francisco, and everybody not getting their shit together and going, oh shit, Gordon Ramsay's here, and just going to random restaurants and is going to review them. Like you get your shit together for that week. Get your shit together when Keith Lee's in town.
This is.
I mean, some people are old and aren't fucking on TikTok, you know?
Yeah, but you're a restaurant owner. Like this is your chance. You know,
This is so
you
fucking
squandered
funny.
it.
Oh man.
It's like if the LaCroix company came to San Francisco and they're like, we're visiting businesses to find LaCroix fans, and like a random guy walked in, and we didn't act right.
don't have any.
We didn't act right.
And we were only drinking Coke that entire
We
time.
were only
you
drinking
know?
Coke the entire time. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? Pay attention when LaCroix's in town.
That's so funny. Radic writes in saying, Tim, you mentioned that smoke coming out of New York sewers is a real thing. The phenomenon of what appears to be smoke rising from New York City sewers is actually steam, not smoke. New York City has a vast steam system, one of the largest in the world, which provides steam for heating, hot water, and industrial uses to numerous buildings throughout the city. Just want to make sure that Bless is well informed for the trip. So yeah,
Thank
don't
you.
get scared. It's not smoke, it's steam.
Cool.
But it's real. It's happening.
Yeah, I thought the Ninja Turtles were like
Straight up.
smoking
bro.
up down there.
Straight up.
Is that more for
I'm
you?
gonna fucking read this one just because I personally
fight
like
back?
it. No, I like it, and just because I think it's clever. But Bandera says, Bless said that the Indiana Jones game could be the only good thing to come out in the franchise in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Yeah.
29 years ago, the incredible Indiana Jones ride opened in Disneyland.
Oh.
And that is true because that is an all fucking time.
yes, that one is fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did that for the first time this last July.
Yeah,
and that was
amazing.
one of my favorite rides in Disney.
So turn that into a video game. That's the thing. It works.
Oh, that would be pretty
It works,
sick,
baby.
actually.
Helldivers 2 is $40, says Nitro 39. And then
All right.
Gordy says, no one's wrong here, but the Helldivers 2 launch trailer came out today, so I don't think it's getting delayed. Cool. So So it's happening, everyone.
It's happening.
Everyone.
Video games are happening.
You know what else is happening? Fun
What's that?
stream after this. You can stay hanging out on twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames if you're there. But if you're not, you're going to have to jump over to a different YouTube stream on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames to watch everyone hang out. Barrett, what you got for me?
We're having some. I need to consult one of my top men, Kevin Coelho, after we're done with Games Daily, because we're having some computer malfunctions over in the other room. So we might go off stream for a minute or two. Don't freak out. We'll be right back, but that's only a maybe. So just giving you all a heads up, watching live.
I love all of that. But until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you. Game Daily, baby.